Good evening and welcome to the channel. If you don't subscribe, then please consider hitting that subscribe button. In today's video, I want to talk about the handicap system. For any of you that are of a certain age and have been playing golf for several years, you'll know we've gone from the CONGU system to the world system that we now find ourselves in. I'm just going to give you now a very brief description of the two systems and how they worked and how we generated our handicap and how we maintained our handicap as well. Just gonna break away from the original video at this stage just to explain more about the current system we use and the system that I was brought up with and how that's changed and developed over the last few years. At this stage, I want to put on record that I'm no expert on this particular subject. I'm just literally talking through what I understand and what I know. When I started golf in the early 90s, we used a system which was designed by CONGU. It was a unified system that was valid in the UK. The system was first put into operation in 1926, and the version that I used was actually sort of modified and reformed in 1983. These modifications brought a few of the Australian system into our system to try and make it a fairer system for golfers of all abilities. So CONGU used a scratch score system to basically rate golf courses on how difficult and how easy they were against the actual set par. If I use my home club Churston example, we had a par 70 and a standard scratch of 70. Some of the harder golf courses would have a par of say 72 with a standard scratch of like 76, so 4 shots above par, meaning it was 4 shots more difficult than the par of that golf course. What we had from there was a competition standard scratch, and that was dependent on weather and how hard the golf course played on a particular day, and that could alter by several shots above or below par depending on those particular conditions. You could only enter scores for handicap purposes in competitions. The main difference was each handicap came into a certain category. So 0 to 5 or plus to 5 was category 1, 6 up to I think it was 12 or 13 was category 2, and so forth into a category 4, which I think was 24 to 28 handicap, which was the maximum handicap for a man. So I'll just explain an example. If I was a scratch golfer and I played 1 shot below the par of the golf course or the standard competition standard scratch of the day, for example, if I shot a 69 gross at Churston when the standard scratch was 70, my handicap would come down 0.1. So for each category, that was what you got cut. If I was category 3, I'd get cut 0.3 per shot. This is where it gets more complicated. And I'll introduce to a thing called the buffer zone. And again, that was dependent on what category you were in. If you were category 1, you had a buffer zone of 1 shot above the competition standard scratch. So if I shot 71, my handicap would remain the same. If I shot 72, then I would go up 0.1 of a shot, and that was the same for every single category. So if you were category 4, you'd have that 4 shot buffer zone before your handicap was affected, but everybody went up 0.1 per competition if they were outside their buffer zone, making this system a lot easier to get cut than it was to go up. If I was to go up a full shot, it would take me 10 rounds of competitive golf. So in November 2020, England Golf decided to join a more universal system. The idea was to get more people into the game and playing the game and have a universal system that didn't matter whether you were English and played golf in America, South Africa, Australia, your handicap would travel and you could compete against players from other countries, other regions, on a more level playing field. The golf industry was also trying to move with the times and make things more accessible and more technology based. We've got apps now from England Golf and also IG that I use that can monitor handicap changes, and you're more in control of your own handicap. That is the main positive of this system. A main difference is now you can enter casual scores. You do not have to only play in competitions for your handicap to be altered. I can go out with a couple of mates on a Sunday evening. As long as I register the fact I'm going to do a score, I can then submit the score which will affect my handicap. To get a handicap or achieve a handicap, then you need to complete 54 holes of golf, whether that's in 9-hole increments or whether it's over 3 18-hole rounds. Your handicap was calculated on 8 of your best rounds of golf over a 20 round period. That can be a mixture of competitive rounds and also general play rounds. I'm going to try and explain how the formula works out what the particular score is and how your handicap is, and it is quite a complicated system that, I'll be honest, I probably only understood about 18 months ago. Thankfully the computer worked it all out for you. So each course has a course rating, and it varies sort of from mid 100s up to sort of 150, 160, etc., depending on the level of difficulty of that particular golf course. It also depends on what tees you play off as well. I can play off any of the tees I want. They're all now gender neutral, so we don't have red tees for ladies, white tees for men. I can play on every tee pot that I want to, depending on the particular day or what I'm playing in, and I will get a different handicap for each particular tee and also each particular course. I've just stood to the right, so I'm going to put the actual formula now on this particular area here, so you can have a little look at the formula as I talk. I won't explain it at the moment. I'll probably do a video in a later date just explaining it further and just giving you a bit more on the actual formula and how that works out, but that is the formula you can see on my left hand side. Interestingly enough, this handicap index, which then gives you a stroke allowance for that particular golf course of those tees that we said earlier, can vary at golf clubs. So if I, for example, played off the forward tees, the red tees at Churston, my handicap would be like 4 shots lower than if I played off the very back tees, which can make a massive difference. On a side note as well, the handicap levels and the allowances has also massively increased since we've changed over, and men now can have a handicap up to 54, not the traditional 28 which I was brought up on. Also, stroke allowance and what you're given has varied considerably. When we play match play now, individual match play, it is full handicap, not the 3/4 handicap difference that I again was brought up on. Whether that's a good thing or bad thing, that's probably for another video. But the change from the two systems has been quite radical, and I've seen some massive changes in my handicap over the last few years. Hope all that makes sense, and that is just a quick overview of the whole situation. Hopefully those that don't know about the handicap system are now got a little bit more information to make a comment in the video about what they think of this handicap system compared to the old system. Benefits of going to a single handicap system, one which is recognised all around the world, meaning handicaps are on more of a level playing field, which is particularly important if you're an elite golfer trying to play in major amateur events such as the British Amateur, the English Amateur, the Spanish Amateur, any of the national tournaments. Then having a system which is recognised across the globe is very important, that we get the best players playing in the best tournaments. But even like the world ranking points and how that is generated and how we decide who the best players in the world are in the professional game, the amateur game is in a similar situation where handicaps are being manipulated on either ends of the scale, from the elite amateur into the beginner and everyone in between, and how that system is failing us golfers. Although the thumbnail may appear to be a little misleading, or even some people might consider it as clickbait, it's important to recognise that we have now lower handicapped amateur golfers than we previously had. And we also have the addition of allowing professionals to have an amateur handicap. We discussed earlier the system and how easy it is to get your handicap up and down. And that is very transparent in the fact that we've got now amateur golfers of +7, +8. I don't even know if there was a +9 handicapper recently, but I don't think he is anymore. We'll do a little bit of research, and maybe if I can find the lowest amateur currently, I'll stick that as a little overlay as I'm speaking now. However, in the past, if you were sort of a +3 or +4 handicap golfer, you were generally regarded as an international player, and putting it out there, you probably needed to be sort of +4 to +6 to play on any of the major tours in golf at the time. However, now a +6 handicapper would not compete on the tour. And I'm using an example of a golfer called Josh Oddie, who's a very good golfer, don't get me wrong, but he recently played a golf course that held a DP World Tour event, and I'll just show you a quick clip of what he actually scored.
Right, we're here on Monday morning at Doha Golf Club, day after Qatar Masters, with the oddster himself.
Here he is.
The question of the day is Sunday pins on a championship golf course, the day after a championship. What does he shoot?
I think level par. That's a good attempt, isn't it?
What do you think? Let us know and we'll post the result later. Alright, we have a live update. There is footage obviously coming, but the boy has just held an absolute bomb to get to 3 over, and he's left with this.
Not what we wanted.
What do you reckon? How are we looking?
I'm going that way.
Alright. Okay, so 3 over through 7.
And Josh is a perfect example of someone who has got an inflated handicap. He'd be probably the first one to admit that. He is a golf professional, like I said before, and a very good player, but he has only entered 3 rounds of golf to get his handicap, and that is why he is off a +6 handicap. Don't get me wrong, I think it's good that he uses that in a lot of his YouTube videos, and I will stick a link to his channel in this particular video. He uses the fact that he's off +6 to give it more of a wow factor in his thumbnails, and probably provides him with more opportunities than he would if he was off his proper handicap, which I would sort of guesstimate at around about +1, +2, maybe pushing on to +3. And I can see the reasons that he's got this particular handicap, but if he's playing off 3 or 4 shots lower than what he actually is capable of or his ability, and we marry that in with someone who's manipulating the handicap in the other sense, then the disparity between the two is massive and far greater than it would have been on the old system. And this for me is where the issues begin. We already know that this system is flawed. They already, in elite competitions like a county championship, will not allow all the scores to count for your handicap to be from general play rounds. They require a few of those rounds to be from particular competitions. Again, they are worried about people having a lower handicap than they actually deserve and getting into some of these events. From what I understand, and you might want to correct me if I'm wrong, but when this system came into play, they actually stated that every single time you tee the ball up, whether you're playing an individual event or just going for a practice round, or whether you're playing 4-ball better ball, any time you use your own ball, then you should be submitting your round for handicap purposes, and that would include shorter rounds like playing 9 holes or 10 holes. Then that round should be put in there for consideration for your handicap. And by changing regulations like that, you're almost admitting that this system is flawed and does not work. I want to bring up another example as well, where I played in a 4-ball better ball event at Cheston Golf Club with one of my friends. From what I understand, if you complete more than 10 holes and your score combined is better than 43 points, then those 10 holes you complete will also be eligible for handicap purposes. We played in the competition, we had 43 points. My friend and my partner scored on 10 of the 18 holes, so I contributed 8 of those holes. But for the first 6 holes, he lost the ball or didn't finish the particular hole, so I counted on the first 6 holes. From the 7th, he shot 1 under par, which I totally understand. He's probably better than his 14 handicap, and he would be the first to admit that on his day he is better than 14 handicap. However, his score was put in for those 10 holes at 1 under par, and the computer worked out that he'd actually shot a 72 gross, which I know he didn't shoot because he lost balls, but he was happy to accept sort of a 76, 77, which would have probably been more of a fair reflection on how he played on that particular day. But through the computer went a score which was way better than he's probably ever capable of shooting. What made it worse is that we didn't actually win the competition. I don't even think we won a prize and was in the top 5 or 6. If we'd have had 1 point less, his handicap wouldn't have been affected. Also, if I'd have scored on 1 more hole where we probably finished the hole with the same score, but he got the ball in the hole first, then his handicap wouldn't have been affected either. and playing 4-ball better ball with a more experienced and slightly better player, and I was helping him with lines on putts which might not have been an advantage, selection of clubs on like particular holes, and also how to play the hole. Like I encouraged him a couple of times not to go for the green, lay it up because he had a shot, and try and chip and putt. So all of which was contributing to him, I believe, getting a better score than he would if he was playing an individual medal. But I now see why some of these people are reluctant to play in certain competitions, not only where they're going to get cut even if they don't win something. I mean, you almost accept it to be cut if you win something, but when you don't even finish in the top 5 and then you lose 3 shots off your handicap, the possibility of ever winning anything again or until he gets his handicap back up is quite low and quite minimal, which doesn't seem right in my eyes. We've also seen some ridiculously low scoring, particularly in things like Texas Scramble, where scores generally used to be sort of, when I would play, in the high 50s as a net score. We now see scores in the 40s, and I'll try and put a few examples up, but I think there was a competition from America where a team shot 47. I mean, that's, for me, at my level, that is very much unachievable and makes you think, am I just throwing my money away? Am I going to play in these competitions? And also, like, we've got, there's the seniors at Churston, and 3 of the gents who have played in that senior competitions for like 20 or so years, and they're in their single figure handicaps, so playing against people off like 28, 29 up to like 36 handicap who are coming in with ridiculous scores. So they've actually now stopped entering these competitions and just go out for a friendly game and playing the occasional individual competition where they have more chance of feeling like they're competing rather than just chucking money in the pot with no chance of winning. And for me, that is the biggest issue with the new handicap system. Another point I want to put up as well at this moment is that with scores being knocked off and replaced, rather than small jumps with handicap like going up 0.1, you can sometimes see an increase of like 0.6, 0.7 of a shot, and to me that is too extreme, that you can actually take yourself up almost a full shot with one round. It used to take 10 rounds to actually increase your handicap by a shot. And now it's too much, it just jumps too much, it's too volatile. And I just feel like there needs to be a system. I mean, I don't know what the system is. If anybody's got any ideas, then hit it into the comment section. I'm just giving my opinion on the system. Unfortunately, I don't really have many solutions to the system other than go back to the original system, which the English Golf Union decided didn't work. I have another example where a gent was off a particular handicap. I think he was off 16 handicap, let's say, and he got into finals day at Churston. But he ended up playing something ridiculous like 25 rounds of golf in 26 days before the event, and his handicap went up nearly 4 shots. He went from 16, I think, up to either 19 or 20, which to me is quite suspicious, and it was probably done with one intention, and that was to receive more shots in his match, which he went on to win. People at the club were obviously aware of what he was doing or what he was appeared to be doing, but still nothing actually happened with the case. And I mean, I just feel like there's manipulation on both sides of the extreme, and maybe every system will have that manipulation, and maybe there's no right or wrong answer. For me, this system is not as good as the previous system, and for me, if you're going to make a change, it has to be for the positive, and it has to be a good reason to make a change, and what you replace it with has to be better than what was already established and what was used for a long period of time. And I personally don't believe the new system improved golf, but what do you think? Do you think the new system is better than the old system? Have you seen any examples where people have manipulated the system one way or the other? Then please hit it in the comment section below and let's hear some of your views. Because I love a debate, and what I've said might be absolute rubbish and you might not agree with it. Well, if you don't agree with it, again, hit it in the comment section. For me, and I said I didn't have the answers, but since I've been doing this video, I've sort of had a little think to myself, and The only way I think this system could work is that if we adopt part of the old system and the only scores that are done in competition count for handicap purposes. So we keep the system in place, but every score has to be in a competition. You cannot put general play rounds in. Again, I've seen one of the golf unions have actually made it in place that only general score rounds better than your handicap will affect your handicap. But for me, that's making people have lower handicap than probably their ability, and that doesn't help the situation. So that's the only solution I can think of, is cards only count in a competition. That way, if people are trying to manipulate their handicap and make it higher than it should be, then it's going to cost them time and money, rather than just going out for a general knock with one of your mates, sticking a card in and going up, making your handicap go up and then winning the next competition. Whereas if you have to play in a competition, it's going to cost you money. If you are doing that and you're inclined to do that, it's going to cost you money, it's going to cost you time, and also you're not going to win the competition. That was just a quick rant today, get a few things off my chest to the camera. Hope you've enjoyed the video. Remember, please hit that subscribe button, like the video and comment below. All interactions, all conversations will go on in the comment section, and I will always address anything that you put in there. But thanks for watching, and we'll see you very soon.